I remind people in 1938 when they had a radio drama of the War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells that involved an invasion by Martians. People panicked. They really believed it. And ever since then, they have been preparing for a fake alien invasion. And they have held back anti-gravity flying saucer technology, which is human technology developed by Germany towards the end of World War II, based on apparently more ancient technology from Tibet and India. But in any case, we're going to see what happens. We can't expect some sort of space drama this year, but overall, I'm very confident that we can liberate humanity, but people, need to follow the forensic trail, need to identify what and who we're dealing with. There's about 1 million members of this group that I call the Khazarian Mafia. A lot of their leadership has been removed, but it's like whack-a-mole. You chop one off, another one pops up. I think we're on to our 6th Nancy Pelosi, according to the NSA, for example. They use... they say it's clones, but it's not clones. It's actors or computer graphics. People surgically altered to look like the person. I don't believe that it's clones. I haven't seen the proof. They keep repeating it, but I've seen no proof. But in any case, they are running out of avatars and people. So we're going to keep fighting, and hopefully humanity will be liberated this year. We're going to do everything we can to make sure it happens. But remember, whatever's closest to you is most important. Before you worry about news from far around the world on your screen, take a look at your own immediate environment. So if there's somebody pushing vaccines directly to you, you need to fight at that level, not worry about China and US and stuff like that. Just concentrate on whatever's closest to you. If we all do that, we can win this year. And so, I wish you all a really successful and happy 2022. I know it's going to be a good year. It's a year that I'm sure if we push hard, we could liberate humanity and start a new age. Not a new world order, a new age. Okay, that's about it for me. I'd now like to answer questions from my viewers and readers.
Hi, Ben. I have our first question here. It says, Dear Benjamin, I have 2 questions worthy of your show. One, I heard you say some Bush-related figure undermined the Vietnam War. What did he do? And secondly, if the Jews have been enslaved for thousands of years, I'm a 65-year-old American Jew. Who am I enslaved to? I am a member of 0 Jewish communities, etc. Should I not know who my masters are?
Okay, the betrayal of Vietnam was... I was contacted early on and offered protection by the man whose character was central to the movie Apocalypse Now. This is not the person played by Marlon Brando, but the person who killed the so-called Marlon Brando. He was an agent sent into Vietnam, and he went deep into the heroin-producing regions of the Golden Triangle when he realized that whole war was fake. But it was the Bush family who were dealing drugs, heroin out of the Golden Triangle. They were allied to remnants of the Japanese military regime and the Kuomintang regime, and they were planning to overthrow the governments of the West and start a Nazi regime. So these are the people we're talking about, and it goes to ultimately George Bush Sr. and the group of Nazis who staged a successful coup d'etat with the 911 regime. So these are the people we were dealing with. And what happened was when SARS came out, which is it was engineered so that only affected Asians. That's when the group that was behind the Golden Triangle split and started fighting against what I call the Khazarian Mafia. So that's the people we're dealing with here. And as far as Jews are concerned, any person who follows the Golden Rule, do unto others as you would have others do unto you, is going to be just fine. And any Jewish group that follows that teaching is going to be fine. They're not a problem. If you are a member of a Jewish group that says Jews are superior and other humans are cattle or goyim, and that we're destined to rule the world, and that there's going to be an end times war between Gog and Magog, then you are a slave of the Khazarian mafia. You are being lied to. You are being dragged along with a genocidal plot. They just taken the Nazi superior Aryan race story and replaced it with a superior Jewish race story. So if you're a member of a Jewish group that promotes Jewish supremacy, war between Gog and Magog, and that non-Jews are cattle or slaves, then these people are not Jewish, and you should not follow their teachings. And I remember when I first met Henry Mako, who's done a lot to inform humanity, we both said, you know what? The problem seems to be organized Jews. And so us disorganized Jews need to do something about it before we get, punished for stuff we didn't have anything to do with. And that's what's going on. A lot of the so-called synagogues are synagogues of Satan. They're centers of Satan worship, but they're not actually Jewish places. And you can know that by their teachings. So the bottom line is, any Jew who follows the golden rule will be fine. And they will be, very prosperous in the new age. Okay, next question.
So the Biden regime needs to come up with a ton of money no later than February 18th, right? Just who do they need to pay? It doesn't sound like it will be the usual suspects who are now all on the run.
Well, what you need to look at there is actual real-world trade flows. So the United States is running a trade deficit of about almost $100 billion a month. It's more than $1 trillion a year now. That means that stuff is being sent to the United States, mostly from China, Japan, some from the Middle East, and they're not paying for it. Okay, so every September 30th and January 31st, they have to pay for this stuff. And then, so who are they paying? It's, mostly the Asians. And like I said, what they did under the Biden regime was they offered to hand over Japan and Australia and all that in order to keep their, their payments for all the stuff that's being sent to the United States. So, we're dealing with the Chambers of Commerce of China, the Chambers of Commerce of the United States. It's at that level. And what I've been trying to convince the Chinese and the other Asians is cut them off, let that whole regime collapse, let them be unable to pay, the wages of government officials, let the whole thing collapse, minus the Pentagon, which is self-financing because of their control of incredible high tech. And we will replace it with something entirely new, a government that unites all of North America and possibly South America with a capital in Idaho. This is our plan. So we're saying bankrupt that whole Biden show, and let's start from scratch with, something much better. In other words, a return to democracy, freedom of the press, meritocracy, and competent government. And the other thing about bankrupting it is that once they're bankrupt, they don't have to pay the $200 trillion in debt. That's not going to be part of the, the new entity is not going to take on that debt. And the other thing is that the current Biden regime is handing over all U.S. real estate to Chinese. And I'm pretty sure that when the Chinese if the Chinese try to come in and kick out the Americans living there, that they're going to find out that that's not going to happen. So, follow the trade flows, look at the government deficit, and follow the money, and you can see where it leads. And it leads to Asia. It's the Asians who are financing the Biden regime, and I'm trying to convince them to stop, and hopefully that will happen. Next question.
Hi, Ben. I haven't followed you for all that long, so forgive me if this has already been covered. May I please inquire about Q, the Alliance, devolution, etc.? How much do you know, and can you give us your insight on any of it?
There are groups in the agencies. That's the NSA, the CIA, the Pentagon, who wanted to liberate the United States. They thought that Donald Trump would be the key, and so I called QAnon Trumpanon, and they got. And what happened was in 2016. Remember, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry was in Antarctica, and I've talked to two people who were at that meeting of 8 people in Antarctica, um, and they said, "All right, we're gonna instead of following the plot that was involving Hillary Clinton getting elected, and remember, Hillary Clinton is the daughter of David Rockefeller, and she's also a relative of Adolf Hitler, this whole German line of the royal bloodlines there." And so they said, all right, and we're going to go ahead with Trump. So they flipped the vote that was stolen, but they just switched Hillary for Trump. And they promised Trump that Trump would not have been allowed to run as opposition if they didn't have all sorts of blackmail material on him. So they promised Trump that they would cover up for his blackmail material as long as he went along with their program. And he tried very hard, and they did arrest a lot of people. They cleaned up a lot of the Satanists in Hollywood. These agency people did do a lot of good work. But at the end of the day, what happened was that in 2020, they ran out of money. Remember, Trump was saying, oh, China's going to pay us $200 billion a year, or we're going to get Venezuela's oil, or we're going to get all the resources of Greenland, and that's going to keep us going. But it didn't happen, and all the military who were behind Trump left the Trump regime before January 31st, 2020. They all bailed out. And after that, Trump didn't want to preside over the collapse of the United States corporation, so he agreed to stand aside for the Rockefeller Biden group who sold out, Asia in order to keep their show going a bit longer. So the QAnon people were patriots who tried very hard to restore the American Republic, but ultimately they failed because Trump betrayed them and became a vaccine pusher, and because they didn't have the money. They were bankrupt. You cannot, they're just so much debt that there was no way anybody could keep that structure going. So in other words, they didn't take the step they needed to, which was to bankrupt the U.S. corporation, renounce the debts, and start afresh. They failed. They failed to do that. That's why QAnon failed. But the bottom line, it was white hats in the military were hoping to restore the U.S. Republic, but they couldn't because they just didn't have the money. Okay, next question.
This will be our last question for today. Since the destruction of the Kansai plane didn't take place on December 21st, did the unification church comply with the Gnostic list of commands? If so, what will March 11th, 2011 and pandemic disclosure look like on outlets like NHK?
Well, what happened was, like I say, the Kansai plane business was called off because, a deal was reached, basically speaking. And what you can notice here in Japan is that they're no longer going by the pandemic story, and there has been regime change here. And also, the North Koreans put forward friendly messages saying, they're ready to agree to the unification of the Korean Peninsula and friendly relations between the Korean Peninsula and Japan. So a fundamental agreement was reached, and also the gangsters hired by the Rockefellers to murder Japanese politicians, a lot of them have been arrested and removed from circulation, which allows the Japanese politicians to once again work for the Japanese people instead of obeying the orders of the Khazarian mafia. So that's what happened there. And I'll try to keep you posted. I'm expecting a lot of big changes coming up, and they should be good changes. But just keep an eye on the news. You'll see it in many ways. It's not going to come in one big announcement, but you're going to look back and say, wow, everything has changed, and for the better. I remain optimistic, and I wish you all the best, and thank you for tuning in again today.